What were Hitler's plans for Antarctica? Many people consider Hitler to be one of the most despicable persons to appear in human history. But what plans did he have for Antarctica? Did he hide something secretive there? Why did he invest in Antarctica? What were the reasons behind Hitler's huge, top-secret expedition to Antarctica? Let's untangle the truth with country facts. To begin the video quickly, press the red button below. A chilly, isolated southern hemisphere region, the Antarctic is bounded by the Antarctic Convergence. When Antarctic waters move northward, they meet the warmer waters of the world's oceans in an irregular line of latitude known as the Antarctic Convergence. 20% or so of the southern hemisphere is occupied by the Antarctic. When considering total landmass, Antarctica ranks 5th, just behind Australia, Asia, and Europe. Antarctica is unlike any other continent since it has no indigenous people. Antarctica is not home to any independent nations. Still, 7 countries, including New Zealand, Australia, France, Norway, the United Kingdom, Chile, and Argentina, lay claim to various regions there. Though, why did Hitler want this icy place? As the leader of the Nazi government, Adolf Hitler had an inexhaustible thirst to conquer new territories and inflict havoc wherever he went. Hitler is remembered throughout history as the one who stoked the flames that eventually led to the Second World War and was responsible for the Holocaust. These occurrences were the cause of the deaths of millions upon millions of individuals. As a result, the legacy of Hitler is one that is marked by brutality and the spilling of blood. Despite this, there is one of Hitler's endeavors that is rarely discussed in historical texts. In the late 1930s, the Nazi regime desired massive quantities of margarine. Driven by this desire, the Nazis successfully led an extensive expedition into Antarctica. The Fat Plan was developed in Germany. In 1936, Hitler finished putting the finishing touches on the Nazi plans to get Germany ready for the start of the war by the year 1940. Hitler had begun the German Fat Plan with these objectives to ensure that German forces were prepared for battle. This plan aimed to acquire enormous quantities of goods like butter, milk, cheese, cream, margarine, paints, and detergents, amongst other things. These items made use of oil and were primarily composed of fat. The vast majority of oil and items based on fat that Germany consumed domestically were imported from other countries. As a result, the onset of war would almost certainly result in these import sources being cut, and Germany would have difficulty satisfying the demand for the products in question. The German populace as a whole had a strong preference for margarine. As a result, the consumption of margarine was very high in the typical German citizens' day-to-day activities. In those days, the principal component that was utilized in the manufacturing process of margarine was oil derived from whales. Because of this, if the Germans were unable to avert war and maintain their current level of margarine importation, they would be forced to create margarine on their own, which would necessitate a significant quantity of whale oil. The satisfaction of the need for whale oil. The morale of the German people needed to be high, and they required adequate food supplies in order for the war effort to be effective. For this reason, the preparedness for the war curiously became dependent on the acquisition of whale oil for the making of margarine. In the years leading up to the Second World War, Germany was a customer of Norwegian whale oil. On the other hand, importing from Norway became prohibitively expensive due to the rising cost of the war, which negatively impacted Germany's economic situation. Therefore, the Germans wished to make whale oil on their own so they wouldn't have to rely on Norway to supply them with it. As a direct result of this, the Germans started constructing factory whaling ships so that they could travel around the Southern Ocean and acquire whale oil. Regarding locating whale oil, the Germans were at a significant disadvantage compared to other nations. It seemed like the commercial whaling business in the North Pacific and North Atlantic had vanished. The only choice was to relocate further away from German soil and continue operations. Because the Germans required a proper and organized method for acquiring whale oil, the German government's leadership concluded that establishing a base for commercial whaling in the Antarctic would be a workable approach to pursue. However, first things first, the government had to locate an unoccupied area that could easily supply whale oil. In or around August of 1936, the German Foreign Office discovered territory in Antarctica that met all of these requirements and was located near whaling zones controlled by the British and the Norwegians. Hitler gave the order to send an expedition to Antarctica to discover and subsequently lay claim to the portions of the ocean that are abundant in whale oil. the captain, and the rest of his men. The mission was led by Captain Alfred Richer, who served as a naval commander during World War I. It was decided that the mission would happen during the summer of 1938 and that its existence would remain a secret. To navigate the Antarctic, Richer relied on his prior knowledge as a naval captain as well as the discretion he exercised in selecting his crew. On December 17, 1938, the skipper and the rest of his crew embarked on their journey to Hamburg. Accompanied by the core crew was an extra support team consisting of 82 scientists, officers, and enlisted personnel. This team traveled alongside the core crew. Members of the crew did not need to be members of the Nazi Party in order to participate in the expedition. Instead, the crew was made up of persons who had previous experience with journeys of a similar sort. On the other hand, the vessel the team utilized for the mission was home to one official of the Nazi regime. The Nazi administration demanded the presence of at least one Nazi official in every meeting to guarantee that the government's demands were being carried out and that its interests were being protected. In addition, the Nazi official played recordings of Hitler's speeches for the crew members as a way to reinforce the crew members' commitment to the Nazi authority. The official would play radio broadcasts of Hitler's speeches and ensure that everyone aboard the ship listened to them simultaneously and in the exact location. Everyone was required to remain completely silent while Hitler was broadcasting over the radio, which would remain on for the duration of his speech. A new twist in the plot. The ship made rapid progress and arrived at the Antarctic shore in just 1 month, thanks to its hard work. As soon as the crew arrived at the Antarctic coastline, they began conducting aircraft surveillance of the region. This airborne survey would ensure that the territory was cartographically mapped for scientific study. It also had the added bonus of allowing the Nazis to claim the entire area as their own. But things started to go badly for the Nazi government almost immediately. During one flight for aerial surveillance, the aircraft ended up with very little fuel. The crew members were required to dispose of containers containing tiny metal swastikas that were to be scattered across the Antarctic region in order to claim the area as Nazi territory. After they were thrown away, the little metal swastikas were never seen or heard from again. Despite this, there was still significant in the mission because the Nazis were able to obtain a more excellent scientific grasp of Antarctica during their time there. The aerial surveys provided a map of the entire region and made it possible to locate areas of it that had been unknown in the past. The expedition was called off not long after that. On February 5, 1939, the members of the crew began their journey back to their home country. During their voyage back to Germany, the crew was able to amass a great deal of scientific data and information. On the other hand, this information was not made public until 1958, and a significant portion of it was destroyed as unintended but unavoidable collateral damage during the conflict. There is no evidence that Hitler was interested in the Antarctic after this mission return, despite the fact that stories about hidden Nazi outposts or abandoned Antarctic colonies still abound online and make for interesting television. In his exploration of Antarctica, Hitler had hardly scratched the surface. Yet despite this, his efforts were nevertheless partly beneficial to the advancement of scientific knowledge. Did you know there's a steady annual loss of ice mass in Antarctica, estimated at over 150 billion tons, and it has already lost 2.71 trillion tons of ice? So what are your thoughts? Is there a secret military base in Antarctica? That's it for today's video. Hey, don't forget to like our video and subscribe to our channel. And thanks for watching.